Good people, good people. We back. Episode 2, Monarchs of Wrestling. I am joined by my man. Of course, he is still hiding. Playmaker. What's up, Playmaker?
What's up, man? Man, that
Hey
Friday,
man,
that Friday gonna live forever. Good gracious! Why did I hop on Snowman on that Friday?
you know how it goes. Some certain things
I
just they kind
want.
of carry with you. You know what I'm saying?
No, if I never hopped on that show Friday, I would have been all right. Oh
It
well.
would have happened another day. It was bound to happen, man. It was bound to happen. But we had a lot, and I mean a whole lot that went down in the world in the land of pro wrestling this past 7 days. Playmaker, man, where do you want to start? You want to start with WWE, just review of highlights from the shows for the week. You want to do AEW?
Mm,
You want to hit Payback first? You want to hit All Out first? Where we want to go?
you might as well go ahead and get the main story out the way first, because you know everybody want to hear what you got to say about what happened to a certain superstar who got fired.
Hmm. All right,
Cause
so
I be paying attention to I be paying sometimes I be paying attention to social media, and everybody know you have this thing with when it comes to CM Punk and him getting fired. I'm pretty sure you got some things you want to say.
well, I'll make it quick, man. So I honestly felt like CM Punk is wild. CM Punk is, he's a jerk, right? He's the guy that'll challenge you. He's the guy that's a little bit more than what he needs to be at times. But I felt like he was good for Collision, but basically he got himself fired, right? I mean, he got himself fired. You can't come back from what he did. So essentially, from the reports that I basically looked through different reports, right? Make sure I got ones that seemed to fit together. That kind of made sense and followed the same thing. So essentially, CM Punk uh, got mad because Jack Perry did the whole use real glass thing. They had the little argument about that before. CM Punk gets up in his face. A little physical altercation occurs. And after the altercation, Tony Khan's like, "What are you doing?" He starts yelling at Tony Khan, cursing at Tony Khan, and saying, "I quit." So at that point, bro, you done. Like you basically said, "I don't want to be here anymore." And AEW is like, "We love to have you, but at the same time, if this is the type of person you want to be behind the scenes, you can go." So I mean, for me, CM Punk put himself in a situation where he get fired, and he got fired for what he did. So bye bye CM Punk. We don't need no more CM Punk. Hopefully, go home with AJ and y'all just enjoy that. We don't need no more CM Punk wrestling. Slow down anyway. We good.
Okay, it was. I can tell it was going. Something was going to happen. Even if when I didn't keep up with AEW, I can see it. I'm like, hmm. No matter what I said last week, he might not have started it, but he sure finished it. But if you always the one in the situation, something of it is gonna happen to you, no matter who started it. So
When you look the owner in the face and tell him I quit, you basically saying I'm done. Hey, and if you done, then you done. So I think it'll be better off for AEW without CM Punk. I think you had too many of the old school guys from like WWE and stuff already. Take a guy like Miro, run with him, make him like one of the faces of Collision. Just have him exclusive and do some things like that. I mean, you didn't need CM Punk.
and they don't messed up already with that. They messed up with that already.
So they kind of did, but they can fix it. It could be fixed. It's fixable.
We we gonna see. I'm not gonna say they. I'm not gonna say they ain't capable of doing it. I never seen it, so I can't say. But
Storylines is
that
their
is
weakness.
definitely not that was who came up with that idea to start. That no no, and the only reason I know about because I actually watching that. You know, let me do a turn from my brothers as I was perusing social media. Came across the clip that Mrs. Merrow appeared And
CJ did.
she did what a wife should do.
Mm-hmm.
But to have Miro do what he did, I'm like, yeah, that no.
So here's the thing,
How you
man.
how you bring in the wife and you gonna make it look like it's dissension in the relationship already? She just got there.
Well, here's the thing that I think I want people to understand, right? So they don't care nothing about their storyline from WWE. If you've been following Miro's promos, what he's been saying in his promos is he's basically been like, I'm done with my dog, I'm done with my God, I'm done with my hot wife, I'm done with everybody, right? So he's kind of becoming this crazed character that's got beef with everybody. And what's happening is that's bleeding over into this thing and Lana appearing. CJ Perry did not need to appear. Point. That was stupid. I mean, it was a poor booking decision. Let me say that. Let me change it. Let me say it's a booking decision. Don't
I
let me
don't think
see
anybody
it.
knew she was gonna appear. And then again, they probably played to the crowd, which is probably not the best thing at this time. Because they kept talking about they kept chatting about his wife.
Bruh. So I saw a clip when she first came out. It was dead silence. Right? Like it was not, there was no pop. And you can't do something like this with no pop. You have to have build. We've talked about this before. AEW. AEW has to have build, and they have to work on building things up. Even this past pay-per-view, right? Half of the things that happened, the matches, even it's like great matches, but we didn't know about them until like Thursday before. There's no
See,
build up.
this is the first thing. That's the first thing they messed up at. You don't have a pay per view as big as your biggest one, and then come back the very weekend with another pay per view. You don't do that.
Yeah.
You didn't let it breathe enough.
Hmm. I will give them credit for not having the championship defended here and kind of not having the same belts defended on both shows. The women's championship wasn't defended here. The AEW championship wasn't defended here. So I'll give them some credit for that. They did come back with the World's Trio Championship, though. That was kind of ridiculous. But I mean, they've got to. I say this last week, and I've been saying this all over social media. You've probably seen it. They miss Cody. Cody was the guy that helped them put shows together, slot people, and build stories. They're missing that, and you can
Last
tell
week on
that.
the show.
Yeah, you're missing that. You can tell it when you see the stories. If you go back and watch the first year, 2 years of AEW, stories started making sense. They were building multiple stories at one time, right? Now it's like, hey, it's Thursday. We don't have enough matches for our pay per view on Sunday, so let's throw 3 more matches on there.
That's why you can't go back to back pay per views. That doesn't make sense.
But here's the bigger issue to me. And Playmaker, you're completely correct. But here's the bigger issue to me. You had the same amount of time to plan for both pay per views. So why not? I know this is coming. Let me knock this out. I know this one's coming right behind it. Let me start building stories that can overlap. The best story that they built between the two pay-per-views were the two best stories. And this is going to be sad when I say it. You're going to unfortunately agree with me, but you're not going to be happy that you agree with me. So the two best stories that they built, well, there were one I'm not even going to really count, and that's the Ring of Honor thing, the Tag Team Championships. I'm not going to count that because they don't even need that to be part of the story. But the biggest two stories that they had carry over was the TBS Championship situation because they introduced Tony Storm into that. So you had Ruby Soho, Saraya, and Tony Storm all involved in that. Tony Storm finishing her turn from the group. And then the other one that they actually built up for, and this is even sad to say, but the other one that they built up for, uh, it's not the main event match, right? You can't say it's the main event match because the main event match, we didn't even find out about that match again until Thursday. So there's no real build in that one. So the only other one that they halfway built up for was the 8-man tag team match.
But no, let me rephrase what I said. All In is your biggest pay per view. That is your WrestleMania. You cannot come back with another pay per view the following weekend.
I completely agree. We've got Another panelist coming in here. Michael, what's going on, Michael?
What's good, everybody? What's good, everybody? How you guys doing?
Going on? So
We're
here's
good,
my
man.
thing.
We're good.
Like with WWE, when they do WrestleMania, you gotta let that breathe. Cause that's the biggest spectacle. That's the grand stage of them all. You gotta your biggest shows, you have to let breathe. You don't come back with another pay-per-view the following weekend. Because you run into what you just said. Wow, Thursday popped up just like that. We only got like certain matches on the card already. We don't have enough matches.
So here's my counter. And I'm not saying that you're not right, but here's my quick counter. I know Michael's probably got something he wants to say about it too. Here's my counter. WWE does 2 nights of WrestleMania. So it's essentially 2 different shows, right? But because they know how to book, they book both nights ahead of time. They don't book one show completely, which they didn't finish booking until the week before too, and then turn around the next night and try to book a whole nother show. You know all the matches like a month ahead of time. They'll add you like 1 or 2 matches in right at the end, but you know some of the matches 2 months ahead of time. The problem that AEW has is they don't know how to set up long-term booking on a consistent basis. They can hit one here, they can hit one there, but they cannot hit it on a consistent basis. Michael, what do you think, man?
Well, so first and foremost, I'm glad to be here. Glad I was able to get on. I almost forgot about it till last second, so I'm here now, though. But no, primarily, man, it boils down to I think that Tony Khan is out of his element here, and I think that he's being ambitious because he wants to be different. You know what I mean? Like, I think he really wants to try to differentiate himself from the WWE, and having the 2 shows back to back like that is kind of his, attempt at the 2-day WrestleMania type situation. The problem was he didn't book for both in a proper manner. He was trying to build for 2 cards, but he was so focused on trying to get that attendance record at Wembley that he focused all of his attention on All In and not enough on All Out. Now, I have not finished All Out yet. I'm in the process of in the middle of finishing it now, but the All Out card was a good pay-per-view so far from what I've heard and read, but it was not to the level of where All In was because of the lack of building up to this. This is one of the issues that AEW, I think, in my opinion, has is their inability to be able to tell a compelling story and follow through with it. And All Out to All In, or All In to All Out, was proof of that. Because, like, first and foremost, on Wednesday, what was it? It was Orange Cassidy against Penta for the international title, right? So you had that in that sense, and why was it the winner faces Moxley and not Moxley versus Penta and the winner faces Orange Cassidy? That's your champion. Like, I know you want to have Orange Cassidy be a defending champion, but why was it reversed in that sense? That tells me it was a quick booking decision to like, oh well, let's add a little drama to it, but it didn't add any drama to it because you knew it was going to be Orange Cassidy and Mox anyway. That's kind of where I'm coming from with that as far as like booking those 2 there. They did not do a good job of being able to take them and build for both. One was lackluster in compared to the other one, in my opinion.
Agree. And the other match that they had a long-term story from the card was, of course, Kenny Omega and Takeshita. That was the only other match that really had any type of long-term storytelling. Everything else felt like it just started, it was jumbled through together, or this storyline was months ago, we never did anything, so let's bring it back for now.
So I'm really confused why that didn't main event too. Sorry to cut you off there, Cool. I really don't understand why they didn't. I don't really understand why they didn't main event. That didn't main event. It made 0 sense to me why that wasn't the main event of the card.
A lot of questions. But we're going to spoil this for you a little bit here, Michael, because we're going to actually go through that card.
That's fine.
I know
I already know the results. I already know the results.
All right. Of course, they started with the over-budget charity battle royal, and once I saw Heyman Adam Page in the ring, I'm like, well, no point in caring about that. We know who's winning that, and of course,
Heyman
won. Yep. Then we had a non-championship because they don't have a women's championship, but a trios match between Ring of Honor champion Athena, Diamante, and Mercedes Martinez against Hikaru Shida, Sky Blue, and Willow Nightingale. And just like we anticipated, the baby faces won. I'm sure everyone anticipated that baby faces won, so that was that. these are definitely two matches that if you forgot about the pre-show or you wanted to get snacks or go to the bathroom or just stretch or just take a phone call, play a game on your phone real quick, you didn't really miss much. I hate to say it that way, but that's the honest truth of it. I guess the best match, and I use that term with quotation marks, was the Trios Championship match. The Acclaimed and Daddy Cheeks with Dennis Rodman against Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett, and Satnam Singh with Sanjay Dutt and Karen Jarrett. It was, I guess, the main event of the pre-show. Do you guys have any thoughts on it? Because for me, it was another lackluster match for Satnam Singh and Jeff Jarrett. Jay Lethal always looks pretty good, but I'm just not a fan of Satnam Singh or Jeff Jarrett.
I had people message me. It's like, Dennis Rodman looks horrible. I was thinking like, oh, Dennis Rodman back in wrestling. How wonderful. This could not go well at all. And the look on Cool Face explains it. It did not go
pretty
well
much.
At all.
Man, the 0 hour show, dude, like literally was, how can we fill out 13 matches in a pay-per-view? Let's just throw these together. No build with the Acclaim at all. They just took 3 people that happened to be in a faction of sorts, I guess, if you can call it a faction, and just said, hey, you're going to be the ones to contend, just so they could get Acclaimed on the card. I mean, the Acclaimed have had one of the most entertaining bookings, I think, since they've won the title. And you end the House of Black feud the way that you did, and then you still have them take a shot at House of Black afterwards. Like there was still a shot there that I think it was Anthony Bowens made towards, Aleister Black or Malachi Black. I don't know which one he is in AEW. I forget. Like he's one of the two.
Hold on. So what you're saying is the Acclaim, who won the title at All In,
yeah,
are the ones taking shots at the people that they beat.
Yeah, that's what, after they showed him respect. You know what I mean? Like, as far as respect was concerned, like House of Black showed the respect, handed the titles over, and then for some reason in the announce afterwards, Anthony Bowens took some kind of random shot at Black, and it was just like, why? Like, if you're not going to continue the feud, what was the point? And then all of a sudden, the next thing you know, it's Jeff Jarrett, Satnam Singh, and Jay Lethal, the most random faction ever, thrown in together, and they were like, "Here you go. Here's a title match for you at the 0 hour." It baffled me, man. It just
I'm looking at Cool Face, and I'm thinking
we could have had a better match. We could have had a better match.
I'm looking at Cool Face, and I'm looking at the comment that he posted. I'm looking like me and Cool has like the same thought process right now reading this comment.
Oh man, I like AEW. Don't get me wrong. I love AEW. I think it's a good alternative for what it provides, and I think it's awesome that what they're doing. But to be able to say that AEW is completely absolved of any type of criticism is ridiculous. Because Tony Khan seems to be out of his element with a lot of the booking decisions that he's made, or a lot of questionable booking decisions. And then there's other things that he does that happened in AEW that WWE would get dragged for, like on numerous occasions. Like WWE would do something and it would be like, oh, that's so awful and stupid. For instance, the thing that pops up to me, and this is directly in line with Krish's comment, by the way, this has nothing to do with what we're actually specifically talking about at this moment, but Daniel Garcia and Sammy Guevara a couple weeks ago have a dance off in the middle of their match with MJF and Adam Cole. And I mean, like, it was literally like a 7-minute dance off between these guys in the middle of a match. And if WWE had done that, it would have, the IWC would have completely just blown up and dragged WWE like Mike, 6 feet under for that, man. Like,
Mike, let me help you out. Let me help you out. Remember R-Truth and Carmella?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, they had a dancing dinosaur and they got dragged for it. Like, I mean, it's like you can't. I understand AEW provides something different and you really want it to succeed, but you have to be able to criticize it still too, because otherwise it's never going to improve. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm gonna say what I say last week, Mike. I said in Cook and verify this. AEW, they put on great wrestling shows.
Oh yeah,
professional wrestling shows. Yeah. They can put it on.
Yeah.
Go out there, do what you gotta do, make the wrestling great.
Yeah.
There's another part to the business of wrestling, though. That's the part that is lacking and missing right now.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And that was one of the things that I mentioned it in the chat. I don't know if you guys remember it or not during All Out, how I was having a tough time sometimes with the AEW style because sometimes they're just doing moves for the sake of doing moves. You know, like during the FTR Young Bucks match, the beginning of that match, you just saw them just telegraphing their moves. They were setting up for it. You saw it. There was no story being told at that moment because it was like we're just going to get these moves out of the way. And then like the halfway point of that match, you start seeing the story being told. And that match became absolutely fantastic in the second half of that match. But the front half of that match was literally a typical Young Bucks match of them just going in and doing moves and not telling a story. And it was just like, why are we doing?
And about 500 super kicks.
Of course, always. But it was like, why are we doing this? And it was tough to see because FTR is so fantastic at what they do. And we're a little bit off subject here. I apologize, but it's I'm long-winded.
No, this
but
is all in our same realm.
No doubt. I mean, FDR is so fantastic at what they do that just sitting there watching them wait for a move to develop was so out of character for them. And there was one moment where I think it was Dax had Nick or Matt, I don't remember which one, in a sharpshooter, and he literally like set himself up. He stood up and bent over a little further, waiting for the brother to come off the top rope. But he wasn't like that until he saw him climbing up to the top rope, and I was just like, FTR, what are you doing? Like, or Dax, what are you doing? That's something that you've never seen FTR do. And that was early on in the match before they started getting into the flow of things and started telling a great story. And it's stuff like that sometimes it turns me off from matches because it's like, I understand it's professional wrestling, and they put, like you said, Darnell, they put on great professional wrestling matches. But at the same time, there's still characters. There's still a story you have to tell. There has to be some sort of drama being told when you're doing these matches, because if not, you're going to lose interest of people in general, and you're never going to grow beyond your hardcore fan base. And AEW leans so hard into their hardcore fan base, which is fantastic and fine, that they're also alienating a lot of the casuals at the same time.
Yeah, I do realize Mike is talking about arguably two of the best tag teams in this modern wrestling.
Yeah, and don't, I will never not give them credit. I will always give them credit for it for 100%. FTR is one. I'm a huge FTR fan. Like, do not get me wrong at all by any means, a stretch of the imaginations. But it's the indie style, and I love independent wrestling, but they don't put on as many shows, so you don't see the stories as much, right? Like they put on like a few shows a month. Occasionally you get some of the other indie styles that put on a couple more matches or whatever it may be, and they can start developing a story. But you have to rush through stories for the most part when you're dealing with the indie world. And AEW is no longer at that level. They don't need to be a glorified indie company. They can still be different, but still do the exact same thing that WWE does and grow that product, because that product is good. It's not a bad product by any means, but you can't absolve it of criticism. And I feel like a lot of times the hardcore fan base absolves it of criticism and basically makes excuses for a lot of the same mistakes that WWE made that allowed AEW to be born. And maybe I'm being overcritical, Darnell. Maybe I'm being overcritical. I don't know.
No. See, I'm gonna ask this question because maybe one of y'all can explain to me before we hop on the WWE, because there's a lot happening in WWE, and y'all gonna see the difference between AEW and WWE. What is I'm gonna call him by his WWE name because I don't know what name he's going by now. Because he appeared in AEW one point in time, then all of a sudden he disappeared. Now he's back all of a sudden. What is going on with Big Cass?
Big Bill.
That's what they're calling him now, Big Bill.
Big Bill.
I don't know what's going on with Big Bill. Big Bill has been in like 7 different groups in like 3 weeks, so I have no clue what's happening with Big Bill. I don't think Big Bill knows what's happening with him. Tony Khan.
Well, I mean, and that's where I think Tony Khan is having problems with not surrounding himself with the right people. And I hate to say that because like a company that has Chris Jericho in it, a company that has Big Show, a company that has Jim Ross, that has Tony Schiavone in it. Like you're talking about people that have years and years and years and years of experience there, and for some reason they're struggling to grow beyond a certain point. They thought CM Punk was going to be that guy, and Collision peaked in week 1, and then literally half the roster was alienated with what happened with Punk for 532,000 people, and sometimes lower. And Collision's a good show. It's in a terrible time slot, but it's a good show.
I
You
would
know
say
what I'm saying?
Friday split a lot of
You know?
difference. That's bad when you fire the main guy from that city and you got to go out there on what basically is his show
No, but you know what's
in front of his
crazy,
people.
Darnell? You know what's crazy about that, though, Darnell? And I don't know if you watched All Out or not, but there was a video that was posted on X, I guess that's what it's called now, that they were chanting "Cry Me a River." They chanted, "Ooh, cry me a river." And in the front row, there was a sign in the back that said, "Tony just cured cancer." So it was like Chicago suddenly just turned on Punk when everything happened. It was nuts. It was crazy.
Yeah, Punk had to realize that you can't just be the ultimate jerk just because you want to be and everybody's going to still love you. He overevaluated how much he meant. And I think Tony Khan finally realized like he's not worth it. And that's kind of why they got rid of him.
I mean, Tony Khan's partially to blame for what happened with Punk too, though. I mean, it was definitely.
Should never brought him back.
Oh, I didn't have an issue with them bringing him back. It reminded me so much of WCW in its dying days when it was just too much power for a wrestler to have. Like the Jack Perry situation there with the Real Glass prior to All In. It turns out that Tony Khan and a couple of his senior executives asked Punk to step in because Perry wasn't listening to him. Like, you're the owner of the part of my language when I say this, but you're the owner of the fucking company. Like, why do you have a wrestler not paying attention to you? You know what I'm saying? Like, why are you allowing Jack Perry to say no, that you had to have a senior wrestler step in and be like, whoa, 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 we're not going to do Real Glass on live TV. Right? Like,
and then you pick CM Punk to be that wrestler. Of all people, you pick the biggest jerk to be the guy.
You also not just that, or not just that, but also like the biggest target on his back because of his demeanor and how he rubs people the wrong way. Like, I'm a very brash individual. I rub people the wrong way all the time, so I know exactly what it's like. People look at me sometimes and they're like, and I'm like, yo, I'm not trying to be a dick, but I mean, this is what's coming across. I know though that I can handle myself differently. It's almost like Punk doesn't know he doesn't separate that. You know what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't realize he's like that, and that's what you start getting the things to rub the wrong way. There was no need for what happened at All In. Like, All In was a great show. It was fantastic. It was record breaking, and for the entire week leading up to All Out, like literally hours before All Out, the only thing we heard of was about CM Punk and Jack Perry. Like, that's all they talked about.
That's terrible. Your biggest show, you hit it out the park. And then the following week, you fall on your face.
And all because you built the show around CM Punk and then you fired him before the show. And there wasn't a way to recover. That's why you don't have one man be that big of a portion of the show, in my opinion.
The fallout from All Out to All In with the Punk and Perry situation, I don't think Tony Khan was prepared for. Because you're talking about there was four shows in Chicago during that week. I mean, there was one that was recorded at the same time between Dynamite and Rampage, but then you add Collision to that, and then obviously All Out. You had this entire situation surrounding it, that your main event was supposed to be Ricky Starks and CM Punk, and you didn't have a plan in case there was an injury coming out of All Out. If Punk had gotten hurt in his match with Samoa Joe, what would have they done? Bryan Danielson was a last-minute thing just because they were like, oh, we have Bryan Danielson on roster and he's clear. Let's bring him on. Like, it was so, you could tell that they were scrambling, and I think that kind of took away a little bit from All Out.
They should have done that match. They should have just saved the strap match for the next pay-per-view and just went with something else. like a return match for Daniel Bryan. So it's Daniel Bryan. That's what it should have done. But you know,
Yeah, I mean, and that was one of the things that I think that Tony Khan needs to have better leadership with him, surrounding him in that aspect, because MJF and Adam Cole at the end of All Out, that main event was one of the best matches. All In was one of the best matches all year. Like, for it being a very simple story, it was literally one of the best matches of the year. It should be a match of the year contender, and it's because it told a compelling story. It was MJF's probably his best match ever in his career, and they did a great job of telling that story throughout the match from the beginning to the end without holding back. And that's something that AEW needs, instead of just going out there and just doing moves.
so I have a question for you guys. Any other of the All Out matches, and I'll run through them quickly. Then you guys can just any thoughts that you may have on All Out. Obviously, we're in agreement it wasn't as good as All In, but you had the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championship match, Better Than You, Baby versus Dark Order. Of course, Dark Order lost that match. No surprise there. You had the Ring of Honor World Television Championship match, Samoa Joe versus Shane Taylor. And of course, Samoa Joe won. TNT Championship, Luchasaurus beat Darby Allin. That was never a question. You had the Redeemer Miro versus Powerhouse Hobb. Miro won. His wife came out to really no ovation at first. Um, and then a couple of comments afterwards. The TVS Championship match, Chris Statlander versus Ruby Soho. The strap match, Ricky Starks and Brian Danielson, who came out to his final countdown music, by the way, which is really good. But without any prior knowledge, it doesn't hit the same. You had the open weight championship match between Eddie Kingston and well, the my bad. You
No,
had the match with
it
Eddie
was a tag
Kingston
team
and
match.
and
Yeah.
Kazuchika Shibata against BCC, Claudio and Wheeler. Of course, we know how that ended. Um, BCC won. Then you had Omega and Takeshita. Omega lost to Takeshita. Then we had the FTR and Young Bucks versus Bullet Club Gold match. And then the main event, Orange Cassidy, John Moxley. John Moxley won, of course. So, guys, I'll just give y'all some time here and, give any thoughts you have on any of those matches. If you're good on the match, you don't even have to worry about mentioning it.
Go, Mike. If you got anything, we can shift to WWE.
Well, just real quick, I just want to mention a couple highlights of some things. Like I said, I know the results of a lot of these matches because I don't care about spoilers. I still follow along regardless. Juice Robinson is having one of the best runs in AEW right now with the Bullet Club Gold. He's absolutely entertaining, and he's putting on excellent matches. And to be honest with you, he's actually kind of overshadowing Jay White, surprisingly, considering how popular Jay White is. And I don't know if AEW truly understands what they have with Juice Robinson right now, but that guy is gold if they can. I guess pardon the pun there, but I guess he's gold if they can go ahead and run with him down the road here and realize what they have. On the flip side of that too, I'm loving this Christian Cage and Luchasaurus storyline. I don't know if I'm in the minority or not, but I think it's awesome. I think it's great for Cage. It's it's entertaining. You know what it's eventually leading to.
It's
You
all
know what I
about
mean?
him, and he ain't even win the title.
That's what I'm saying. It's so good, man. It's just so good because Luchasaurus isn't, he's not one of those guys that oozes charisma. Like he needs to go out and cut a 12-minute promo or anything like that. But Christian Cage is just so fantastic at what he does when it comes time to do it. It's just so entertaining on that front. So I don't have anything specific for matches. I mean, to Kesha is obviously they're building him up to be a huge star in AEW, which, to be honest with you, I think they're actually doing something that WWE struggled with for a long time, and that's building up a Japanese star the correct way at this moment in time. I mean, obviously, WWE is doing a good job with Resurgence with Nakamura, which we'll talk about in WWE, and I feel like they're doing a really good job with Io Sky to the point where they're bringing back why can't I think of her name? the pirate.
Oh,
she was a pirate.
Kairi Sane.
Kairi Sane. They're bringing back Kairi Sane, which is fantastic to me as well. So I think AEW has some really bright spots there, and I think that they have some really, really key foundation pieces in place that are not Darby Allin and Jack Perry. No offense to Darby Allin by any means, but I don't get his gimmick. Is he a dead skater?
He's an emo skateboarder.
It's emo, like so it's an emo skate. So he does cool skateboard tricks, and we all supposed to love him. Like like he does a coffin. Like when he feuded with Samoa Joe, he did a coffin drop onto Samoa Joe and bounced off Samoa Joe. But I was supposed to believe that was going to beat Samoa Joe. Like he needs a different finisher, man. It's killing me. It's killing me.
He needs to get this. He should use a Scorpion Death lock.
Oh yeah, he needs to do. He needs to do something. I do like Darby Allin.
That won't look believable either.
Well,
yeah, he's got to do like a crossface or something. It's got to be some way he gets you on the ground and you do it.
Like don't get me wrong. Like,
off dropping on you does not do anything.
I love Darby Allin. Darby Allin putting you in a sharpshooter, really?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Darnell, I like Darby Allin too, but I mean, his style just I don't understand it. That I think that might be the biggest thing is I don't get what he's doing with his gimmick and his matches, and like the coffin drop is just an awful finisher. It's just bad. So I mean, that might be where I'm at with that, but you know, who knows? We can move on to now. I said what I need to say there.
So the only thing that I want to say about All Out is that I'm happy that the matches were good as far as the actual matches, but we have got to do a better job of actually giving a solid product. AEW, work with us. If you need to take the time, take the time. Let's not do these back-to-backs if you can't handle them. Now, we're going to move over to WWE to Payback. So we're going to do Payback a little different. So I know my man Playmaker is very excited about Payback and what happened at Payback. So I'm going to let him take the reins. And just so y'all realize that he is taking the reins, we're going to put him in the captain's seat. Let's go.
So Payback. Now, before I get to Payback, you got to inject what happened on SmackDown first. So when you get to SmackDown, now you don't really know what's going to happen on SmackDown. Because, you know, the week before, tragic stuff happened. WWE handled it the best way they could. So you go into this week, you're trying to figure out, okay, where we going on? Now you know John Cena was coming back. What you didn't know, he was going to be the one opening the show. And then what you didn't know, he's hosting Payback. So we coming right out the gate. Hey, John Cena, welcome back. Oh, you're going to host a pay-per-view, by the way. Or premium live event, as they want to call it. Cool. All right. So now that we got that in there, maybe we probably going to go back to SmackDown later on. But we got that in there. So we going to open them. We open the match with the rivalry that Cool doesn't really care about. And that's Trish Stratus, Becky Lynch inside a steel cage. And I do got to admit, they beat the hell out of each other in that steel cage match.
Hey, Cole, I don't know what you said prior to my headset died, so I'm not sure what you said leading into Darnell going off there about the start of the pay-per-view. But hey, you might be bored by that feud, man. But that match hit. Like Becky and Trish. I mean, Trish for being what, almost 50.
This match should have been the last pay-per-view or the last premium live event, and it should have been done. They did not need that crap from the last one. That's all I'm saying.
They beat the hell out of each other, and they used the steel cage a lot more than I thought women would use the steel cage.
Yeah, and like I said, for Trish for being almost 50, that was fantastic. Like, I really enjoyed that match. I thought that match hit hard. So,
and of course, the 2-on-1 thing happened. Becky Lynch overcomes it, gets the dub. Zoe Starks did what probably Cool loved the most out of that whole match. She got tired of Trish, and she hit Trish with the 360, go to sleep. Now
we can either get them going into a feud, or Trish can go home and just be beautiful for her husband, not all of us.
It will likely lead to a Zoe Stark Trish feud. Trish has a few more or a little bit longer left on her contract, and I think that she came back specifically to try to. I guess the Becky Lynch feud is to kind of pass the torch, and now it's Zoe Stark. It's just going to be let's try to give her a rub as a young artist, as a young female athlete, and move on.
All I will say about that is if Trish is staying around, we're all winners.
I'm saying. All right, so that's the opening match. Then our host comes out, Mr. John Cena, who's never been a host before, so he's trying to figure it out on the go. So he decides to insert himself in a match that everybody's looking forward to watching because this is probably the top feud going on right now between the Miz and LA Knight.
Yeah,
Miz comes out. The Miz comes out, challenges John, or why are you trying to introduce yourself to a match? You have never done this before. You don't even know what you're doing. And John comically asks Miz for advice. It's nice to know after all these years, them two still got chemistry together. That was a funny promo between them two. That was just funny.
They got more chemistry going on than John Cena's haircut does. That's for sure.
Oh my. Yo, when it's done, it's done. John, you can cover all the edges and swing it around 3 or 4 ways. We can all see what's going on back there. We can see it. And there's nothing going on back there.
But yeah, them two still got chemistry on the mic together. It's a great thing to see after all these years. Nevertheless, John is a special guest referee between the Miz and LA Knight. Kudos to John Cena. Caught it right down the middle. No favoritism whatsoever. And we all know who was going to win that match. They had no choice but to have this man win a match, and that's LA Knight.
Yeah, basically they couldn't afford to, Darnell. They couldn't afford to have Miz win. No offense to Miz, but they couldn't afford it.
But the interesting part of this is the ending. LA Knight and John Cena eye to eye. Got a lot of people talking out on social media. This is gonna be a feud.
It's gonna be a WrestleMania match. The problem with the WWE though is they kind of have to keep an eye on LA Knight because he's 41. Like I think a lot of people forget that he's up there in his age. So like even though we've seen wrestlers go into their 50s, they're usually a shell of their former selves. But right now, LA Knight is kind of like hitting his prime at 41. But how much longer is it? How steep is that drop off going to be when it hits for him? He's always been a fairly safe wrestler, so it made sense to put him with the Miz because the Miz has been a safe wrestler his entire career. Not the most exciting wrestler in the ring, great character, but in the ring he's not but he's safe. He's never caused a major injury, and he's never really had a major injury except for the ACL a couple years ago. So it made sense to put those two in a match here with LA Knight getting the win because that's kind of what Miz is primarily doing now.
Yep, 100% agree on that. Great match. Now, mind you, people, there's only 2 matches, and we was an hour into the show.
Can I give one quick take on LA Knight? People are not going to like this, but I have to be honest.
Yeah.
I love the character of LA Knight, right? Amazing. Everything, right? He's got it, but the wrestling has to step it up a little bit. The wrestling has to be a little bit better.
I think that's a fair take. I don't think it's a major criticism of him, but the thing about him is he's perfect for the WWE style and how they do it. Eventually, I'm sure that once they up the stakes in his matches, we'll see a good side of him because when he was with Impact, he had some of those matches that were really really good. So, or TNA or whatever the hell it was called back then. But he's done it before. We know he can do it. It's just his style has always been better suited for like a WWE because it's the way that they tell stories. It's the way that they do things, and then they can go out and go all out in matches, sort of like we saw with Trish and Becky. There were some kind of meh matches, and then the cage match came, and it was like, okay, this is telling a great story. This is definitely the climax of the feud. And I think that that's part of the storytelling advantage that WWE has over other promotions, and that's primarily because Vince is just a visionary when it comes to that. Regardless of whether you love him or hate him, that's Vince's vision of how to tell a story, and it's passed on to Triple H now, and WWE and AEW. Uh, that's probably the biggest discrepancy between the two. Is that storytelling ability?
Yeah. Now, this way I'm gonna jump into the United States Championship match because this is what me and Cool we had different ideas, but we weren't disagreeing with each other last show because it's trying to interesting to see how you want to present the United States title. So we all know Rey Mysterio won it because he got the blessing from Santos Escobar to go take out Austin Theory, which he did. We get to the rematch at Payback. Trying to figure out how this match is going to go. Pretty smooth match, good match. The interesting part. I like the finish. We don't need no finisher. You the young buck, I'm the veteran. So I'm gonna beat you by rolling you up. And let you sit in the ring, try to figure out what just happened to you. Love it. Rey Mysterio retains the United States title.
I don't love it. I Austin Theory, and I know what they're doing with Austin Theory. It's kind of the typical WWE fashion of knocking him down a few notches on the card to eventually either turn him a face and hope the crowd goes nuts, and give him his run or whatever it may be. But it's not a believable feud between Theory and Mysterio. This would definitely have been better with Escobar, and I know that Escobar's actually nursing an injury, I believe, as to the reason why they're not actually rolling with him. But when you have a story like this, it's usually one of two outcomes. Either Theory wins the title back and turns face, or Escobar turns on Mysterio and wins the U.S. title from him. Mysterio 100% is a transitional champ, so it's not a compelling storyline to me at this situation in juncture for Theory. I don't know who I liked it better with, but it's not working for me, and I'm hoping it's the end with the Payback match. But with that finish, I don't think it is.
Cool. You want to tell him your thoughts from last week about this?
Yeah. So I expected the match to go this way. I think that he's clearly going to lose the belt to Escobar. Right. I don't think he's going to have to do a heel turn. Escobar is to take it because at the end of the day, there's only one man that's going to end up with this championship. You know who that is? So this is all just to get the belt to LA Knight. He's not going to beat Ray. You got to give Escobar because I look at it like this. I think Escobar was supposed to win, but then somewhere along he actually did get hurt. They had to find a way to write him out. He wanted the belt off because one thing to remember about Austin Theory, remember he had backup. When he was winning all these matches, he had Pretty Deadly. Since he's been on SmackDown, obviously he had him on Raw. But since he's been on SmackDown, he had Pretty Deadly. Pretty Deadly got injured, so they're off TV. So now he doesn't have backup. So how viable is it for him to overcome Rey Mysterio in a one-on-one match without his backup? So that's where I think why he wasn't going to win the match. Now, what I would like to see here is I'd like to see him and Grayson Waller become a tag team and win a tag team championships. That's what I would like to see. I think that would be a very interesting route to go over the next couple of months with Austin Theory.
Waller and Theory would be a good heel tag team. But I truly believe that with the way that they're booking LA Knight right now and what we saw with Cena is either he's going to have a match with Cena eventually, or they're going to use him as kind of like an anti-hero, an anti-face, not necessarily a heel. But you remember how the old Stone Cold Steve Austin days were, where you didn't really care. He didn't really care who you were. And I think they're going to follow that same kind of pattern with LA Knight. Because of the similarities there. You know, I mean, they're obviously not identical, but the similarities are there. And Theory, I think they're going to turn face, and I think they're going to push Grayson Waller as a top heel. And eventually is what's going to happen is Waller is going to be a top heel in whatever SmackDown or Raw, whichever one he's on. because they see it with Waller. Hell, I see it with Waller. You'd have to be, Ray Charles to not see it with Waller, to be honest with you, or Helen
Waller's
Keller.
going to be the most hated guy on WWE besides Dominic Mysterio. No one can ever be more hated than Dominic Mysterio, but he'll be second because he's so annoying.
I love ex-con Dom. I love him, but I love to boom too.
That dude, let's give him a mic. That's it. Let's give Dom a mic, and you would just hit the arena once he gets a mic. That tells you everything you need to know. Speaking of Judgment Day, they first of two matches featured Finn Balor, Damian Priest, trying to fix this together for Mommy and get the undisputed tag titles from Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn in a Pittsburgh street fight.
And Mommy is the leader. Make no mistakes about it.
Is the leader, okay? Let it be known, but I'll get to her after I get to this match. Man, that match did not bring back memories. Watching those four guys go all out.
Yep, certainly did. There's not much to say about it. I mean, we knew it was coming. It's still going to eventually lead to a Finn Balor and Damian Priest split. Probably when they finally lose the title, it'll probably be another miscommunication. The seeds have already been planted, so there's doubt there. It might even involve JD McDonough in that sense, because that's the way that they're going. But the WWE also sees Damian Priest as a Latino babyface for Raw, and it won't happen until after Rollins loses the title, whenever Rollins loses the title. And that will probably be when the cash-in happens at most for Priest. Whenever that happens, it could be the Rumble, it could be, heading into Mania, unless there's an injury or of sorts, or they, obviously have to call an audible. It makes the most sense. And you put it's kind of similar to the MJF and Adam Cole storyline on AEW. You know where it's going, and eventually it's going to lead to another match between those two, probably for the world title. So it will probably be Priest and Balor, and it may be for the title. So they may be tag champs right up until Priest wins it, whenever that happens.
So my thing is, it was 5-on-2 for them to get the titles off Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Big assist. I'm not gonna give. Sorry, Mommy, I can't give you the big assist. I gotta give it to JD, man, because I was wondering when he was gonna show up, and he showed up at the most crucial time.
I thought he was going to show up in costume.
And he showed up at the most crucial time, because I was like, "Oh, that's done." Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn gonna retain, and he came out of nowhere. I'm like, "Wow, this match is still going." And I'm gonna give Don some love too. Dirty Don, he took some hell of a bumps at Payback.
He certainly did.
Oh my God!
In 2 matches,
he took some bumps, bro. Dirty Dom, you get your flowers on this one, buddy. You put in your work on Saturday night, sir.
So I'll say real quick, I think that for me, I'm looking at it like this. I would love for Priest to be the one to actually beat Rollins after Rollins already defends the title. Because we know at some point soon, it sounds like Seth is going to have to take a break because of back troubles and get surgery and get that straightened out. So right before he's getting ready to leave, he wins a big match against somebody. He's hurt, back's hurting. Here comes Damian Priest out with that briefcase. Boom. He wins the championship. And then that starts the beef with him and Finn Balor back up. That would reignite that with fire.
Do you want me to kind of I'm going to kind of ruin that for you real quick. Rollins' back is really not that bad. It's being played up for TV. His back is hurting, but it's not serious. It's not considered serious. And it's actually not something he's really been dealing with for 4 years. They're playing it up for storyline purposes for whatever it may be. So,
I know that. But it's still injured to the point where
no surgery is required. It's not considered serious.
The way he looked at the end of it, we're going to talk about that, because the way he looked at the end of it, I like it. I like that you said that. So Judgment Day has the undisputed tag titles, but that's not the end part for Judgment Day because Mommy has to defend her title against her biggest challenger to date, Raquel Rodriguez. I
Literally
said
her biggest challenger.
going into this match, if they was gonna let somebody retain, it had to look a certain way, which it did. Now it wasn't the best match on the card. Okay, wasn't the best match on the card. There was some problems there, but they did what I wanted them to do. Dirty Dom, after taking a hella bumps in the street fight tag match, comes out to try to save Mommy, and he gets what other guys been getting from Mommy. He gets power slammed by Raquel, thus leading Mommy to win. Which the only reason why I love this, Mike, because at some point, Rhea has to look vulnerable. There's no bigger spot for her to look vulnerable than to Raquel Rodriguez because you have Bianca Belair and Charlotte Flair on the other show. So your only realistic possibility to make Rhea look somewhat vulnerable is Raquel Rodriguez, and I'm happy they did what they did.
Raquel is going to eventually end Rhea's run. It's going to be Raquel's run. She's the only true viable option other than Bianca or Becky, or even maybe Asuka. But with them not being in the same, I guess, area, it's got to be Raquel. But it's also going to be Raquel because, or Charlotte, I guess I could have thrown in that earlier thing too. But it's got to be Raquel because they need to start building newer stars. And Raquel's still fairly young. She still has her prime ahead of her, and she's really the only woman other than Rhea, because Rhea is also young. So they're going to have to make these two kind of like the new Mickey and Trish, the new Charlotte and Becky, the new insert top woman here versus top woman there, with Bianca obviously being part of that trio. Moving forward in the women's division, but those three are the future of this division. And Rhea is already hitting her stride now, but now it's time for them to build another star for the future, and that's going to be Raquel eventually. And I think Raquel is logically the only choice, barring injury, of course, to take the title off Rhea for this particular run, in my opinion.
So I've got one other name that no one ever brings up that literally can physically beat Rhea. Piper Niven.
The problem with Piper, though, is that I don't think she has the charisma that the WWE needs for her to be a top star.
Like, I think she wouldn't do it, but I'm saying physically she could, but she wouldn't do it because
I think physically for sure.
She has about as much personality as a cucumber.
Yeah.
So she's definitely not going to be the one to do it. But I mean, I'm just saying, physically speaking, she could do it because if Rhea was to try to pick her up, that could be really, really bad.
Really, now I'm trying.
Actually, she did.
I know, but I'm just saying you could make it look really, really bad.
And I was like, Piper Niven might actually beat Rhea, and I'm like, this was when Rhea was a face, and when she finally did Riptide, that arena exploded.
Yeah, I now I'm gonna ask my cucumbers when I get off the show what kind of personalities they have, because I don't know what a cucumber has for a personality.
Yes, you do. All you have to do is watch Piper Niven.
Fair. Okay, fair.
So, but fair. My thing was this, Mike. Rhea couldn't dominate Raquel. You couldn't have Rhea dominate Raquel, because if you do that, then it's like nobody's going to be here.
Absolutely.
So, with Dirty Dom getting involved, now we make Rhea look vulnerable now.
Well, I mean, you had to. I mean, like you said earlier, you have to. It's the only way that you could have had her retain in that match against Raquel, and it also protects Raquel. Yeah. Having ex-con Dom enter in the match, because it protects Raquel, saying, okay, well, Rhea won via unfair advantage. So, I mean, it's a smart ending of booking decision. It's not popular amongst a lot of wrestling fans, but it's a smart booking decision.
So, Judgment Day, they have all the gold now,
except for one.
But they have the gold now, and they are celebrating with the Money in the Bank contract still within the group. Now let's go to the Grayson Waller effect. Cody Rhodes is going to be on. I know y'all seen it. So many rumors going around. What's going to happen when Cody Rhodes is at Payback? But it's the thing that nobody knew about. Cody Rhodes comes out there. He says, I use whatever power that I had left. I put all my chips to the side and for this moment here. And I wanted to right a wrong. And when he says right the wrong, you trying to okay. He's going out the Roman Reigns. All right, we know this coming. So we finna do this now, or what we doing? Technically, he is. But the way he did it is bringing back Jey Uso. But not only bringing him back, but bringing him to Monday Night Raw. Thoughts on what Cody Rhodes was able to pull off?
This is the difference between WWE storylines and AEW storylines. This is a perfect example of that. This was the perfect person to do this after all the problems that he had with the bloodline. I'm going to stick my neck out to bring main event, not just Jey Uso, main event Jey Uso to Raw. So we're getting another guy that's instantly going to be heading towards the top. And when I saw, it was the first thought I had, Chad Gable should be one mad MF right now because you just lost your chance.
So I am mixed on this emotionally, primarily because I feel like Jey is ready for a world title run. I feel Jey, if they weren't going to do Cody, which we are sure that it's going to lead to eventually Cody ending Reigns. If they weren't going to do Cody and they were going to end Reigns for any particular reason, it should have been Jey because he is ready. I still don't feel like with the way that ended and him quitting was a satisfying ending to that storyline. Now, of course, we can always revisit it. It could always come back. It could be just a detour role to try to get another top face onto Raw. But
if you ask Paul Heyman, at that time we was at the bottom of the third inning.
Yeah, if Jey isn't in the world title picture on Raw, I think it's a failure on WWE's part. He needs to be involved in that picture somehow, some way. I don't know how they're going to do it. Maybe they do a detour like they did with Cody Rhodes as far as like being a top guy on that show. But even with that though, but even with that being the case though, I think I don't think Gunther is going to lose that title until he's ready to take over the title from Rollins, because I think Gunther is going to be the one that's going to end Rollins if it's not Damian Priest. Or Gunther's going to end Reigns. It's going to be one or the other. Gunther's going to be a world champion sometime next year.
Yeah, he will. But I think you've got to get the middle. So you want to get this mid-tier championship off him, right? James was the perfect person because he's never had any individual championship.
Yeah,
so he can lose it to Jey Uso. Then he can enter the main event picture. He can start fighting the main event guys, right? And you give it a little bit of time. We've got the Royal Rumble, yada yada, coming up. By then, Gunther could be the guy.
Yeah,
who's ready to do it.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. And that's actually a pretty valid point. I just think that if they're going to have Jey take it off Gunther, they have to give Jey a legitimate run with it, because if you think about Gunther and you think about what he's done with this Intercontinental title, he's brought back prestige to this Intercontinental title to a level that we have not seen for years with this title. Think about
we referred to last week.
It's Jimmy versus Jey.
Is who's who
Intercontinental Championship WrestleMania.
Who Gunther beat in this ring, and it's clean wins with this ring with Gunther.
And then add on the Royal Rumble performance from number one also to that accomplishments. Didn't win it, but that was probably one of the best performances we've seen since I don't even really know, to be honest with you.
And when a guy has a great performance in the Royal Rumble like that and doesn't win, what happens the next year?
Usually they end up winning it, but I don't know. It just depends if that's what the direction they're going to go in. And if that's the case, then Gunther's going to lose at Survivor Series, in my opinion. That's going to be where he's going to lose it. Would be at Survivor Series.
Whenever he loses it, it's got to be Jey Uso. They can't have a match until then. It's got to be Jey Uso. That's the
I don't disagree.
perfect win for Jey Uso coming in as his first championship as an individual, and he can ride it through WrestleMania, Jimmy versus Jey for the Intercontinental Championship because they want to fight each other.
I'd be interested to see how that would work out with SmackDown and Raw.
Like, you know, about WrestleMania, there's no SmackDown and Raw.
That's true. That's very true.
So Cody Rhodes pulled one over on everybody to everybody's delight. Main event Jey Uso is back, and main event Jey Uso will be on Raw tonight. So I'm interested to see how he does in his first appearance on Monday Night Raw in some time. Now, if I remember correctly, that leaves us with only one match left. Because there wasn't a ton of matches for Payback.
5.
Because Triple H said he's trying to cut down on the number of matches on Premier Live events. So we have the World Heavyweight Championship. Would this be Shinsuke Nakamura's crowning moment? Or will Seth Rollins continue on as champion? Now, the whole thing is, and you heard Mike talk about it earlier, this thing with Seth Rollins back. That is the target for Shinsuke Nakamura. How much damage and pain can I put to Seth Rollins with the back that is already hurting? Violent match. Seth survived. And I'm pretty sure everybody was waiting on Damian Priest to cash in. But if you watch the Premium Live event, there was no way Damian Priest was going to cash in on Saturday night. Now, after that match, he just went through.
Right. It didn't make sense because he just got a championship. So for him to turn around and cash in for the other one, it just wouldn't have made sense.
Right.
But Seth Rollins survives. But here's something I want to throw in real quickly. Because what most people didn't see after the Premium Live event went off the air, Shinsuke attacked Seth Rollins.
Yep.
So this feud is not done, gentlemen. But round 1 goes to Seth Rollins.
Yeah, and round 2 will go to Seth Rollins. And
all I have to say is I hope they don't Finn Balor Shinsuke.
I think the thing with Shinsuke is I think this was partially a way to build him up as a top heel on Raw and kind of give him back a little bit of vigor for A, being so loyal to the company, and B, the hard work that he has been putting in. Even when he got knocked down the card, you never really heard anything negative coming from him, and that's odd for a top star from Japan who was catered to and treated like royalty over there. And it's odd for a top star in general, not just from Japan, but it's in general, to kind of be humbled to be able to get knocked down the card and just remain a hard worker and just continue to go out there and do their things without complaining. There was obviously a little discrepancies. Nakamura was obviously a little frustrated with where he was, which understandably, you were eliminated first in one of the Royal Rumbles after you had a sensational performance the year before. So you won it, and then you're the first one eliminated in like 3.5 minutes. It's frustrating. So I think this is kind of them saying, we see it with you. You're definitely over with the crowd. Let's focus on how can we take it to the next level. And the Raw before Payback was probably his best promo work ever in the WWE. It was absolutely incredible.
That video package was great.
It was fantastic.
That's a great heel package.
Yeah. And the back storyline, again, this is the difference between AEW and WWE for a good chunk of it, is they used it throughout the match. It wasn't just he used it last 4.5 minutes. It was throughout the entire match. He targeted the back and used various ways to attack the back. So that to me was just probably one of the best matches Shinsuke has put on in the WWE. And even though Payback as a whole, as a pay-per-view, wasn't the strongest pay-per-view that WWE has had, or PLE, whatever you want to call it, it may have actually been the worst overall for the WWE this year, but it's still like a solid 7.5. Like, I mean, it was still a very solid pay-per-view across the board, and that main event was really good for a 26-minute match. Like, I don't think a lot of people realize that match went 26 minutes.
Well, WWE's mastered the art of, if I'm going to give you a crappy pay-per-view, I'm going to send you home happy. You're going to be talking about the last match. They've mastered that art because they've given us not necessarily a whole PLE, but they've given us some really horrible matches throughout these things. But then they've always ended with us with a really, really like good. Ever since WrestleMania, they send you home happy. Night 1 of WrestleMania, night 2 they send you home flustered, but you were still satisfied. Ever since then, they just continue down that path.
And I think a lot of it too is if you think about it in the sense of how it is, Vince has always been able to manipulate the card. Like Vince has come out in recent years and said there's 3 main events on a card. The first match is because it's your setter that sets the tone for the pay-per-view. Your middle match is what he would normally say as far as like the crescendo, and then you have to have a cooler match in between because the crowd has to have something to be reinvested in. So while those matches aren't exactly bad matches per se, it's usually involves storylines that are quick and not as interesting or don't have as much invested into them. Like I think of one where it was like, I don't remember what it was. It was like a Intercontinental title match, and then it was followed by like a tag team match that involved like 2 teams that nobody really reacted to, and then it was the main event. And they did that because the crowd at the end of the night, you want them invested in your main event, and they need to be invested in your main event. And the best way to do that is to have a cooler. So, like you were saying, cool. Look at that. They have done a great job of being able to manipulate the card to keep you invested in that. It just Triple H reducing the matches is going to make it harder to hide those. Because even though Rhea and Raquel was not the strongest match on the card, I felt it was a good match, and it was a storyline or a match that the crowd was invested in. But they knew that they couldn't be that invested into it because it went on right before Rollins and Nakamura, whatever it was. I wish that they had switched those a little bit personally. But that crowd was hot for most of the night, and they got lucky with that. But it's very rare that happens across the board.
So that was Payback. Now, a couple of things I want to get into from SmackDown before we get out of here. First off, Jimmy Uso finally came back and interrupted John Cena, by the way.
I wasn't upset about that either, though, because I'm sick of the same shtick from John Cena.
That's why I love the promo between him and the Miz. Miz, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. That's real quick. The Miz got John Cena. When he sat there and said, "You almost 50 and you still just like a tip," I'm like, Miz got him. Miz got him. I'm not a Miz fan, but I'm like, Miz got him. Good gracious. But yeah, Jimmy Uso's back. By the way, Jimmy and Jay have different theme music. This is like something we got to get used to.
Yo, Jimmy's music is dope, bro. Like Jay's is straight, but Jimmy's music is dope, bro.
So we got Jimmy on SmackDown. He confronts John Cena. Of course, we all know usually when you confront John Cena, we know how this is gonna end. It ends with Jimmy getting an AA. His brother Solo saves him from AJ Styles, but I don't think he really wanted to save him. But being a brother, he did it anyway. Jimmy pays the return, helps Solo beat AJ Styles, what was the main event of SmackDown. Then he threw the 1-up. Is Jimmy trying to get back in with the bloodline?
Jimmy was always gonna fall back in line.
I see this as 2 different things. There's 2 different storylines happening here for me, and this is going to be my last thing before I got to sign off here. I see this as 2 different storylines here, guys, and maybe you guys can chew on it for a little bit and see what you guys our thoughts are afterwards. I see this as 2 different ways for WWE to build Jimmy into a main event scene, similar to how we did with Jay. because he's close. He's very, very close. He's not there yet. But it's also building Solo, who they see huge star power in because he's young, to possibly be the next guy in WWE when he's ready. Because you think about Roman Reigns, he was in his early 30s, mid 30s, or like early 30s when he really took over and they started that transition phase. He's phasing out to the point where he's getting more and more Hollywood offers now. That's going to be that John Cena-esque type thing. They don't have a guy waiting in the wings to be the guy. Solo Sikoa can do it. If anybody can do it, it's Solo. So I'm seeing this as a way to build both these guys through the Roman Reigns bloodline story so that neither one of them necessarily need to beat Roman Reigns to get that push to the next level. And they're going to do it either with each other or they're going to do it separately but assist each other in the process. It's a very interesting thing that WWE does, and sometimes they do it very subtly that you don't realize they're doing it, but it is something to keep an eye on through this, because I think that that's what we're starting to see. Now, it's going to be a slow burn for Solo. It's going to be a little bit faster for Jimmy because Jimmy is a little bit older, but that's where I believe we're going to see it. It's going to be the burn for Jimmy the same way that it did for Jay. And Jimmy's just needs that push, and I think it's going to be through the bloodline storyline with Solo to get to that point.
But there's another interesting swing on everything. Y'all remember back when Roman Reigns was having a beef with Jimmy and Jay, and he had the lay, and Solo grabbed the lay, and Solo didn't want to give him the lay back.
Yep.
Subtle storytelling.
Yep.
We're sitting here talking about the next person is going to be like the head of the table. It could end up being Solo. Solo could have been sent all alone to take over, to sit back, learn, and then take over.
The silent ones are the ones you have to sometimes be careful of, which is why you never had to worry about me because I'm long-winded. But I'm out of here, guys. This was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having me. I'm sure I'll probably be on here in the next couple of weeks. You too, stay real.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Mike, for joining. And the last thing before me and Cool get out of here, we've been waiting to hear from a certain trio of men. We finally heard from them on SmackDown. And those who I'm talking about Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. They finally made it known of what their intentions are, and their intentions are to take over. Cool?
So when I saw it, there's a couple of different things that went through my mind, but I can sum it up real quick with this. Woo! Loved it, was ready for it, and so happy that it came to pass.
I'm looking forward to see what is the next step with this trio, because it's showing. Shout out to Wiser Hefe, good brother. Next week you need to join us. But it's gonna be interesting to see what is next for the Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits, because the fans are waiting. They want it. They want to see these three make some moves. They want to see it. You can feel it every time Bobby Lashley comes out, when the Street Profits come out. So it's gonna be interesting to see what they do on Friday on SmackDown. But that's Friday. Tonight's Monday. We do have an Intercontinental title match between Gunther and Chad Gable. Jay Uso will be on Monday Night Raw. He might open up Monday Night Raw. You know how Raw is. So, what are you looking forward to tonight, sir?
There's no one thing. I'm just ready for stuff to get right, man. I'm ready for to pick up. Right. I want to see Jay. I want to see what happens between him and Cody, because I think that's going to end up being either a partnership where he's kind of like the mentor for Jay a little bit, or that's going to turn ugly real fast. So I'm interested to see which way that's going to go to.
Definitely looking forward to that dynamic duo. I'm looking forward to see Seth Rollins How are you holding up, sir? Because even though Shinsuke is on you, that Money in Bank briefcase is always lurking around. Which makes this even more interesting, the fact that Damian Priest has the tag titles now. But makes him even more dangerous. And let's see if Chad Gable can do the unthinkable before Gunther breaks the record or Gunther breaks the record.
Chad Gable is not being Gunther breaks that record.
That's what's on the line tonight. It's not just a championship. It's a record too. So turn it back over to Cole to take us out.
So appreciate everybody joining us in the chat. Appreciate Michael for hopping on. And this is another great episode, man. This is episode 2. We're putting this thing in the books. But before we go, got to shout out Shady Sports Network, who we're also streaming on. If you haven't checked them out, check them out. Everything in regards to football, right? Obviously, this is football we're there, but they focus on football. Play this ad real quick. We're going to come back. Last words where you can find us, and then we're going to be done for the night.
This is Brett, and you're watching Shady Sports Network. Tune in, hit that like button.
You might wonder, what do these guys do? Player signing announcements. I never in a million years thought you would actually come on to break this news. So without further ado, go ahead and tell everybody what happened today.
Yeah, man. I just had to work out with the Cincinnati Bengals. Finding me right out.
Without further ado, I'd like to announce that, I'll be taking my talents to Salina Liberty.
This just in, the Major League of Football is reportedly collapsing, unable to pay hotel room bills, with players being kicked out of their rooms and hotel managers asking them to leave voluntarily without issue.
All right, Playmaker, man. Let the people know where they can find you.
Playmaker. So you can find me down there, Playmaker Songs on Facebook, D20 Playmaker on Twitter, Instagram. I'm gonna say this, and cool. I'm giving you a heads up now. Y'all go find Snowman Multimedia, because Snowman in the Morning tomorrow finna be in Fuego. And give you an idea what's coming tomorrow when it comes to me, because football season has started. So
I feel it. I'm everywhere, man, but playcollegesportstalk.com/live. Tomorrow night, preview, matchup madness, all the teams every week. Some of them are going to be videos, some of them are going to be live, but everybody's going to be live tomorrow because it's going to be for week 1. Make sure you check us out and make sure you're ready, because we're coming. But every day of the week, Monday through Saturday. Either Eagles are leader on Wednesday or something on Play College Sports Talk. So just get ready. Lots of content. Playmaker's one of the hardest working men in the industry. You know your boy getting it in, so watch this. It's a lot to see. And with that being said, man, we're going to end things for the night. Make sure you're here next week. We're going to make it happen again.